Hi everyone, it's Nicole for Simon Says Stamp, and today we're going to create some creative Halloween and fall backgrounds, and we're going to be featuring the brand new coordinating dies for Tim Holtz stamps. I'm going to be focusing on the Pumpkinhead, Halloween Doodles, and Nature's Wonders stamps today. Let's start with Pumpkinhead, and I have gone ahead and stamped 4 of the Pumpkinhead images on some Nina Desert Storm craft cardstock using an alcohol ink friendly black ink, and we're going to color in with some Olo markers. The colors of Olo markers I am using are listed down in the description below the video here on YouTube for easy reference. I tried to mix up the oranges I used, or the oranges, browns, kind of yellows I used for all of my jack-o'-lanterns here, just to add a little additional interest, although it is slightly subtle, but I kind of thought that made it a little bit more interesting to look at. If you've never tried coloring on a craft colored cardstock, I highly recommend giving it a try. Your markers do look a little bit different on it, and I think the results are absolutely gorgeous. Once I've colored in the orange here for the pumpkin, I am going in with a brown color, and I am adding in some additional shading and detail right over the top of those oranges. And then I did use like a brown for the shadow here, but you'll notice on the next pumpkin I use some greens or yellow greens, and I liked that a lot better. In fact, I think I used the colors right here that I used for the stem, and I'm going to just color over the browns with that. It's not going to be quite the same color, but it's not going to make that big of a difference. I just really liked how that looked. One of the things that I love about Olo markers, or alcohol ink markers in general, any of them, is the ability to go over your image after you've colored it, and maybe you're not completely happy with it. You can go over it without pilling the paper. So much fun. So here I have picked, again, a couple of different oranges. I used orange reds on that first pumpkin. You can definitely get that red, very brighter orange feel, I feel like. Now I'm using my tried and true favorite orange combination on this next jack-o'-lantern, and really just trying to follow the design of the stamp. We're going to go in for the stem, and here's where I decided to try those yellow colors, I guess. It says it is, but these are a couple, I use them for greens. I really like these, and I loved how that looked. I thought that little touch of that greenish color there looked so much better. So using my lighter color, I just kind of went over the browns on that first one, just a little bit. For our next jack-o'-lantern, I'm going to go ahead and actually use some yellow-orange colors instead of actual orange. And you'll notice how the colors look on the craft cardstock. They definitely have that yellow vibe to them, but I really love this. I love seeing all the different colors of pumpkins at Halloween or in the fall, and so that was really what I was going for here. And I make mention of this because I do use some brown shades, some neutral shades, for my final pumpkin that we'll color here in a minute. And I don't particularly like those colors. And instead of restamping the image, I am actually going to just color right over that. Now that I've added more color into this pumpkin, however, you can see that it's giving those orange vibes again. It's just a very much more muted vibe. So this is where really when you're coloring on the craft cardstock, it does give very different looks, different results, depending on what you're using on the colored cardstock. And that kind of really goes for any colored cardstock. If you've never tried coloring with your alcohol ink markers on any color of cardstock, I really recommend it. Definitely go for more lighter shades, you know, pastel like lighter greens, blues, pinks, pinks and yellows especially, for your best results. But craft definitely is my favorite. Okay, so here is my final pumpkin, and I definitely decided to go all in on these brown shades. Don't love them. So I leave this in because I really think it's important to show that I did not restamp this pumpkin. I really try to make the most of things. Sometimes things maybe don't go exactly your way, and there is always a way to fix it. You don't have to resort to restamping immediately. And by the time we pull all of the images together, pull all of our background together, and do all of the finishing things, no one is going to know that maybe it wasn't your favorite, or maybe you do like this look. I just felt like it really was kind of, it went way off from what I had done for the other jack-o'-lanterns, and so I just wasn't thrilled with it. And I ended up going back over it with some of my other markers until I changed the color a little bit. So I left it for a minute. We want to let those colors sit. We don't want to oversaturate the cardstock too terrible much and have the colors bleed outside of the lines. But we will go back in now, and I went back in first with my yellow orange kind of over the top, my very lightest color. And then I ended up going over it with my brighter orange, and you can see how that really changed the color completely of that pumpkin. So even with the base color of the brown, it ended up being actually pretty nice. Okay, I added some white highlights to the images, and then I used the new Pumpkinhead coordinating dies from Simon Says Stamp to coordinate with these Tim Holtz stamps to cut these out. Let's go ahead and work on building our background now. Our first background today is going to feature an acetate window. Acetate windows are one of my favorite things, whether you're making a shaker card or not. In this case, I'm using the Gothic Halloween background stamp from Simon Says Stamp and some soft navy cardstock and the Positively Saturated Night ink. We're going to stamp the design first on a 4¼ by 5½ inch panel of the soft navy cardstock. I'm going to make sure that I have good coverage here. I love how that looks. We're going to place this in our spatter box then, and I'm taking the Positively white splatter product from Simon Says Stamp, and we are going to add a little bit of distress over the background. I love a good tone-on-tone text background, and the spooky, or the Gothic, pardon me, Halloween text is perfect for this, and of course our new white spatter that works so beautifully. We're going to let that completely dry, and then once we're done with that, we're going to take the Modern Teardrops dies from Simon Says Stamp. We're going to use one size bigger to cut an opening out of our Gothic Halloween background. We're going to use one size smaller than that to die cut our So Very Black background, and then we are going to layer those together. In addition, I have the Tim Holtz Sizzix Vault Fright Night dies. I've die cut a little spooky spider web from some ice vellum. And I have one of the spiders from this set too, just to kind of round it all out. So we're going to layer the Modern Teardrop background right onto our white top fold card base first. Then we are going to take some foam adhesive and we are going to pop up the jack-o'-lanterns within this Modern Teardrop shape, stacking 2 by 2. So it's going to create this really nice little grouping of pumpkins in the center of our card. Once we have our foam adhesive in place for our jack-o'-lanterns, we are then going to glue together the 2 Modern Teardrop frames and place those right, well, we're not going to place it over the top yet. We're going to place a piece of acetate on the back of this. Using those sentiments from our Pumpkinhead stamp set, Happy Halloween and Trick or Treat, I want to stamp those 2 greetings right on the front of the acetate panel with cotton white StazOn ink. This is one of my favorite ways to add a sentiment where I don't want to stamp it on a separate piece of paper, die cut it into a sentiment strip and have it cover up all of the beautiful design going on in the background. Our pumpkin heads are the focus of the card, and so by applying our sentiments or stamping our sentiments onto this acetate panel, they overlap the design, but they don't detract from it. So try acetate for this. It does not have to be just for shaker cards. I love, love, love this technique. Now, before I add the front of the panel now to my card, I did go ahead and take a spider web from the unraveled Tim Holtz stamp set, and using some white pigment ink, I am stamping that along the bottom edge of the card. So we have a die cut spider web up in the upper right corner. We have our stamped spider web down in the lower left, and we're going to finish with some gemstones. Next up, let's work on our next card, and we're going to build another scene card, and we are going to create a shaped card here with the A2 Arches dies. I absolutely love the A2 Arches dies or any shaped dies for creating a shaped card. Using the Tim Holtz moon masks, I'm holding that in place. I went around the perimeter with some tumbled glass ink. Then we're going around the whole thing with Twisted Citron and Rustic Wilderness. Trust me, we're building up that base. I know not a lot of the green shows through this card design, but it's going to be worth it. Then we're going to take Villainous Potion, and we are going to work that around the edges of the card into our greens. Keeping the moon mask in place for now. I don't want too much of that color to seep into the rest of the design. Now I'm going to remove the solid moon mask. I'm using the medium size, and I'm going to go in with my blue, and I just kind of added a little bit over the top or whatever was left on it, then a little bit of green, a little bit of purple. We're going to go in with a little bit more blue. And then we're going to take the layer for the moon mask with whatever ink is left on our Villainous Potion inking tool, go back over the whole thing with blue to mute that design a little bit, and put our solid moon mask back in place. Finally, I'm going to finish with my last color, which is Black Soot. No Halloween card is complete without a little black soot ink. I know that it kind of covers up a lot of the greens and the purples, but you can still see peaks and hints of them through the color, and I love that. Going back around the moon now with my ink blending tools just to soften it a little bit, we'll place that solid moon mask in place. We're going to put our background into our spatter box, and we're going to spatter it up with our white spatter again. And this is going to create another completely different background. Using my A2 Arches dies, I also have die cut my large A2 shape and a size or two smaller to create my frame. Now, before we continue, I am going to take these bats from the unraveled Tim Holtz stamp set, and we are going to stamp those with Nocturne ink. We're also going to take one of the other spider webs from this set, and we're going to stamp this with white pigment ink down along the bottom corner. Anything we can do to help showcase, emphasize the scene that we're going to build. On a separate piece of cardstock, this is Nina 110-pound weight cardstock, I have stamped from the Halloween Doodles set the skeleton, the pumpkin, bones, and let's see, what else did we die cut from that? And then I also die cut one of the Pumpkinhead jack-o'-lanterns. We're going to take our Olo markers now. Oh, the mushrooms, pardon me. We're going to take our Olo markers and we're going to color in all of the images for this card now. Anything that's going to be bones or skeletons doesn't require tons of coloring. I just want a little shading on here. In fact, I kind of went with some yellow oranges, very light yellow oranges, and then my 0 marker to blend those out, or light brown colors. A lot of times I'll use a gray, but I was kind of liking how that looked. We're going to go back to one of the color combinations from our previous card to color in the pumpkins. I wanted it to look for this scene card that our skeleton is kind of dancing back behind a pumpkin patch. And because there is a pumpkin in the Halloween Doodles set, I could have stamped it multiple times, but I liked the interest of pulling from another stamp set, mixing and matching. This card has elements from 3 different stamp sets. I've had the unraveled stamp set for years. It's kind of one of my go-to favorites that really works nicely with lots of different card designs, with those spider webs and the bats and things. And then obviously pulled in elements from the new stamp sets. Also very, very fun. And have fun with it. You could even use the ghost from the Halloween Doodles set if you wanted to, but it just gives beautiful results every single time. So once we have these images colored in, we're going to use the coordinating dies to die cut these as well. While I'm coloring these, I do want to talk about my card base for this card. You'll notice I did use the A2 arches for this. My favorite way to create an A2 arch card, shaped card, is to take that largest A2 arch shape, place it on a white top fold card base from Simon Says Stamp that has been scored and folded in half, and slightly have it hang off of the edge of the top of the card where the crease is, and then run it through my die cut machine to give that rounded arch shape at the top. This is going to make your card slightly shorter than 5.5 inches tall, which a standard A2 card is 4.25 by 5.5 inches. Because of this, I want to make sure that when I place my A2 arch panel on the front of the card, I'm lining it up with the top of the card rather than the bottom, because it might, with the bottom of the card rather than the top, because it's going to stick up a little bit higher at the top, if that makes sense. No, it's not a big deal. It doesn't hang off by that much, but that just gives you the best look. You'll notice with both the first card and this card, we are utilizing not only the frame that we cut using our Simon Says Stamp basic dies, but we are utilizing the background. Whenever I take the time and to do all of the inking and the spatter and the stamping for all of that background building, I don't like to lose any of those pieces at all. So we are utilizing every little bit. This card also would make a nice shaker. You could use an acetate window. I am going to keep the sentiment very simple on this. This would be where I would take a sentiment and stamp this on the inside of the card, because I think there's a lot going on the front. We're only going to stamp the word boo up at the top, but this one is definitely a scene card, a nice shelf sitter type of design. Let's grab those coordinating dies. We're going to place those over the top and then run these through our die cut machine. None of the dies are tabbed, which I absolutely love. You just grab them, die cut, and go. Again, this is another card where I created that framed up effect just like the first card as well, using one size smaller of the A2 arches. I love this look. It's very effective. It breaks up the background a little bit without losing any of that design. Once I'm kind of happy with this, I like how the skeleton is holding that bone in his hand, kind of dancing around. We are going to start adhering everything down along the bottom edge. I put foam adhesive back behind all of this, and in this case we are not using acetate, but again, this card would work really well with that first technique if you wanted to. And we're going to place our foam adhesive on the back of our A2 arch frame and then add this in place right over our card background. And you can see, just line it up there with the bottom, place that down. I'm just going to make sure that my mushroom is in place. We're going to glue the bone in the skeleton's hand, add that boo stamped with white pigment ink, just like so, right up here at the top. And that is going to pretty much finish up this card. You can add a few little gemstone embellishments. The Positively Dazzling gems from Simon Says Stamp are perfect for this, and that rounds it out. You see the little touches of the spider web down in the corner, and of course the bats against the moon backdrop. It really is just the perfect scene building for these new Halloween Doodle and Pumpkinhead images. Let's move on from Halloween to fall with our last card, and for this one, again, we are going to be utilizing some craft cardstock. Starting out with the gingham background stamp from Simon Says Stamp, I've inked it up with white pigment ink, and on this craft panel, I'm going to make sure it's pressed really well. We're going to take the tag dies from Simon Says Stamp and die cut 3 tags from that gingham background. We're also going to take the new Nature's Wonder stamps, and I've stamped 3 of the leaves from this set on another piece of craft cardstock, and we're going to color these in with our Olo markers just like we did before. I'm choosing to use shades of yellow, green, reds, oranges, and browns for my leaves. These leaves are absolutely stunning and gorgeous. One of my favorite card techniques with leaves like this is almost to create like a little shadow box, if you will. Or this isn't a shadow box at all, but that's definitely what inspired this. I love the look of like you're doing this little collage of leaves on tags, etc. I have a shadow box I made years ago that's like that, and it kind of inspires a lot of my leaf cards. I love this look. I never tire of this look. One of my favorite effects or designs for a card is tags that have something on them, and whether it's going to be 3 tags like I am doing today, or you do 4 and you do a quadrant card, etc. I love this look. I found that 3 tags fit in a landscape style card beautifully, so that's what we're going to do for the card here today once we have all of these colored in and die cut. I also think, I know I mentioned that shadow box earlier that I've made previously. Grab a shadow box from your favorite craft store. You could make a bunch of tags with all of the leaves from this set, and you could then pin them in the shadow box, and it would be a really fun fall decoration. I think that would look absolutely incredible. Have fun with it. These leaves are super realistic looking. The detail, the shading, all of that on here. And now that we have coordinating dies, especially with the tiny little detail of the, the kind of that branch or stem going through our leaves, it is going to make it so much easier to cut these out and do something like that, like a home decor project with these or any kind of card. I just love this. So we've got our greens, our orange, yellow, or orange reds, pardon me, and then we've kind of got our yellow browns here. Just going to go all over that. Oh, it looks so pretty. And again, try coloring on craft cardstock if you haven't already. I can't impress enough that it's one of my very favorite looks. It always is a showstopper and it looks amazing. Okay, I've got my tags all die cut here. How cute are these little gingham tags? You could also use pattern paper, but I love making my own. And this gingham backdrop is one of my favorite kind of OG Simon Says Stamp backgrounds. I'm inking up the edges of each of my tags, kind of dirtying them up a little bit, distressing them with some ground espresso distress ink, just direct to paper. Then I have this beautiful embossing folder that is one of my favorites. And again, this goes back to creating those beautiful backgrounds for our fall and Halloween cards. This is our wooden planks. I've gone ahead and run this through my die cutting machine using another piece of the Neener Desert Storm cardstock. And then direct to paper, I am taking gathered twigs first, then ground espresso, and pulling out the detail of the wonderful wooden planks. Look how awesome these look. Any kind of wooden plank background is one of my favorites, especially for fall cards, Christmas cards, any of those kinds of things. And I just love this. Everything from this card was built from just paper and stamps. I love that. And of course, the wonderful dies. Now, when I am using tags on a card, I always like to tip one upside down. I don't know why. That's just one of my favorite looks. I like to mix it up a little bit. And don't forget your hole reinforcer for this wonderful tag set from Simon Says Stamp. I have die cut this from dark chocolate cardstock, layered it up there at the top, and we are going to pop each of our leaves onto the tag with foam adhesive. We're going to use some May Arts twine. We're going to do a little bit different. I think I did this on the first and last tags where I ran it through and knotted it, and I cut it really short. This is on a card. I don't want super long dangling ends. And then on the tag in the middle, we are going to tie that one into a little bow. After that, we're going to put our tags on the card. Look at that collage against that wood grain background. Isn't that amazing? I just love it. We're going to kind of tip them, overlap them. I love that white pigment ink gingham plaid. It really sets off the beauty of the coloring of our leaves perfectly. On that scrap of craft cardstock, I took some Nocturne ink, inked up one of the phrases from the Nature's Wonder stamp set, die cut it with a Sentiment Labels die, and then roughed up the edges with a little bit of the ground espresso ink again. Now, before we add the sentiment, I'm going to go into my spatter box with the Gilded Foundry Wax, and I am spattering this all over my card. This is going to be a much more subtle spatter than the white. I didn't think the white was kind of what I wanted here. I wanted flecks of gold, but you will notice in this finished card, there's going to be these golden spatters all over the leaves especially. That's my favorite. I did it all over the whole background, but the little glints of the gilded spatter on the leaves is stunning. Look at that. It's so beautiful. Finally, we are going to add our sentiment right there across the middle tag, popping it up with a little foam adhesive. We're going to finish our card with a scattering of metallic, positively dazzling gems. Place this on our white side fold card base, and that is going to be it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video showcasing a brand new Tim Holtz coordinating dies for Halloween and fall stamps and fun ways to create beautiful backgrounds to really showcase each of your card designs. The supplies I used today are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube for your convenience. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.